in the blue, the winner of some of the best TVTs we've had in years on Wednesday for Dragon Phoenix Gaming, Cure.
And his opponent, spawning up the top right for Kites of Gaming. It is the best Chinese player to ever touch the game. It's Oliveira.
How could you say something so brave and yet so true? I don't think that's all that controversial at all. Time in the last year has been looking so good. Atlanta accepted, of course. But he's been looking great. You know, he's taking down Dark and EPT Cups. He nuked Solar out of a game, which that's maybe more than saying something about Solar. Actually, in fairness, that was a really unfair nuke that Solar hit because the tracking dot, it jumped. It was showing not that it was going to hit Solar's army, and then it was targeted on his army. So it jumped, and the last second, Solar had already checked the spot. So it's unfortunate. And like there was some sort of bug in the dot. I don't know what it is, but multiple people now have looked through the replay, and the dot jumped in multiple spots.
Wow.
Yeah.
It wasn't two nukes being called down.
No, it was one nuke.
That is pretty messed up.
I don't think I've ever seen it before.
If that would have happened in this tournament, they would have to resume from replay because that would be the kind of thing that could make or break a championship. So that's something we'll be keeping a close eye on. I did not hear about that. That's pretty mind-blowing. And
it's one of those things too where you only saw it if you went back and looked at the replay from player perspective. Like because if you're looking at the nuke coming in from the observer interface, you just see the big dot go, like the big circle getting smaller.
Oh.
So that was something we only noticed. I think multiples of us that ended up casting that game, we went back and looked at Solar's POV, and the dot was still on the army region, but it was not in a position where it would hit Solar's army. And then it jumped. And depending on when Solar checked for the dot, that could have made the difference. I don't know. Again, I forget when exactly Solar checked his army for the dot. Regardless, it was kind of it's rough.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about it too much right now. We do have to focus on the game, as we've got some very interesting openers coming out from both players. We have something that almost literally never happens in TVT, which is a 1-Rax expand versus a 1-Rax expand. Now, it was a gas first 1-Rax expand out of Cure, which is the more traditional way if you're going to play that greedy build. And he did go for a skipped scout versus an opponent who SCV scouted and went for a barracks gas 1-Rax expand. And this is very strange from Oliveira. I feel like this is a pretty brutal misread, kind of, because he scouts the command center. You know from the timing, or you should at least, absolutely you should at this level, that this is a 1-Rax expand, but he builds a bunker. Like, there's no reason for Cure to be out on the map with his early game units, and I don't blame Oliveira too much for playing a little bit safe, but you already did the SCV scout, and that's the safety. So I think this is actually a bit of an overcommitment to defense. It's not to say that the bunker is bad, it's just inefficient when you get it that early. Now, he is doing something very interesting where he's gone low on the Reaper count and is trying to make up for it kind of just by going heavy Marine. So in that sense, he's going to be a little bit safer against things like Hellions, and it's actually going to do very well against what Cure has done, which is going for I like to call this the Ryung opener, which is where you skip Reapers for the most part and use Hellions as your early game units. It lets you stockpile gas for Ravens a little bit faster, even though he didn't get a quick third gas, so you're a little bit more efficient on your money mining. And there's a lot of potential for Hellions to get, potentially very big shots in the early game, and they have just as much fighting power as Reapers. You just can't jump into the main base. That's really the only difference.
Well, the Reaper's going to try to show up now, and yeah, it's going to get neglected immediately, but Steadfast, please, keep talking. We have a very loud PA happening right now. I can't hear you.
Fair enough, no problem. I guess I'll continue for now. We do have a very fast third command center from Oliveira, and of course, when I say can't jump into the main base, with the one Reaper, he did go for that scout. Didn't really get much information, only saw the factory. But of course, I'm talking about the potential of like 3 Reapers, 5 Reapers jumping into the main base and sniping down a few SCVs. So overall, this is a little bit it's going to sound strange because like, oh, TBT, they make tanks, they make Ravens, they make Marines in the early game. You know, like, what are they doing? This is actually the kind of setup that doesn't happen almost ever. This is such a rare occurrence. And Cure, he is going to be trying to hit a bit of a timing here. He's going to be rallying forward Vikings. Funnily enough, he's got, okay, he just has the one rallied tank, but he might be able to keep his opponent from securing this base for a while. Nice scan, sees that it's a pretty heavily Marine-focused army. This is so weird because auto turrets are so heavily nerfed. I feel like Cure does not want to fight this here. Ooh, but if he, oh, nice quick turnaround from Oliveira. If he could have baited that Cyclone in, that would have been really nice. But Cure, yeah, he recognizes probably shouldn't be tussling with this army, and I think he's going to back away, and I really hope he does, because I don't think he can push into this. Yeah, but not with what he's got anyways.
Yeah, but you do want to make use of those Hellions in some way. They don't add value later on, and if you can... Okay, so yes, auto turrets have been nerfed steadfast, but interference matrix hasn't, and there are only two tanks right there. So if you can interfere, if you can matrix the tanks, and realistically maybe the Cyclone too, and then run in with the Hellions, kill off the Marines, that is still a viable opportunity. And Cure's looking for it. We see he's not running back home. He's still establishing this map control, and Oliveira is doing such a good job of scouting out where he's going. A Marine here, a Reaper there, means that he always has the tank sieged. And with these Vikings and the Cyclone, it's actually really hard to get the Ravens to get those matrices that they need. So yeah, it's an interesting idea from Cure, but it feels like the positioning from Time is just invalidating any opportunity.
Exactly, and while the auto turrets are not as good as they used to be anymore, they're still good in a defensive setup when you get to set them up. We are going to see a potential move in coming on in, but yeah, wise decision from Cure. He loses a Viking though. That's pretty expensive. You do not want to lose those Vikings in this crucial early game TBT war. And as he rallies in a couple more Vikings, he will regain air control temporarily. This has been a very interesting setup because both of them have like really been heavily posturing. We haven't seen much action yet, but there's been a lot of chess at play. Now, behind all this, you might be saying to yourself, Cure's ahead in supply. Steadfast, what are you talking about? Why are you saying this is good for Oliveira? Well, the upgrade timing. That's a big difference. He's got a significantly faster setup here for combat shields. He jumps on his opponent's Raven, gets the kill there for free. Oh, that's a really big pickoff. It's now 3 Ravens to 2. We talk about interference matrices and auto turrets. There's now going to be 50% more of those potentially for Oliveira here.
That is true, Steadfast, but the Viking count is favoring Cure. And the most important thing when you talk about Raven play, anything like that, the Ravens actually have to run forward and knock things down. So if Cure's able to
building,
yeah, the Viking change.
Yeah, they're so maneuverable now.
It's actually kind of crazy how much. So for certain players, this Viking idea has always been popular. Yeah, I'm not going to build medevacs. I'm just going to build Vikings. It's going to be great. I'm going to dominate the skies, and why would I build medevacs? That takes away from that. But it's really cool to see in TVT how some players have really started to just accept that, really lean into that even more. Although as we say that, finally, we're at 9-10 Vikings. Both players are starting to build medevacs. Oliveira has given up any shot of air control, right? It's 9 Vikings to 6, but that means his medevacs are faster. As now Red Raven's going to go down, but great shutdowns on the Ravens. Anti-armor missile as well means that, first of all, there's no way that Oliveira wins the air battle, and he's not going to be able to push in all that hard either because, well, 1 Raven went down, the other 2 were disabled. They're not going to be able to find their way in again.
No, they are not. That was a very ambitious move from Oliveira. He knew there was a sensor tower there. I don't think he realized that Cure had built so many Vikings because this is a much bigger commitment than you're used to. Usually you stop at, like 6, usually at maximum, but to go all the way up to, in this case, I think it was 9, like you said, that's a lot of Vikings. So I don't think he was anticipating that. I think he was going to be thought he was going to be able to bully his way through. By the way, Oliveira did not start his 2-2 anywhere near as quickly as he could have. Very nice spotter depot on the left side, spots this medevac drop and misses Cure's own drop. Meanwhile, big attack coming in through the middle. Interference matrix, he's coming in from Oliveira, going to shut down a lot of his opponent's tanks, and he is going to slaughter the main army. But will that matter with a counterattack coming on in? It will deny the 4th base, and the Marines, I love this. He rallies them back with the main army. Oh, this is actually so good for Oliveira at the front line. Oh, he's got to pull back these Marines. Does he save the command center? No, he loses the 4th CC. But this positioning from Oliveira looks so good right now.
This is a much better position for Oliveira because, yeah, you're talking about it. Yes, he lost his 4th base, but he will eventually be able to rally enough to defend his 3rd, his natural area. And Oliveira has a free 4th base he can take down, and he's killed so many more workers, and he's knocked down the tech. It is, how many, what is our tank count at? It is 9 tanks to 2. So, yeah, sure. He lost his 4th command center. You don't want that. He traded one over that was free. There was no way Cure was going to get out on the map. Upgrades, they're not as far ahead as they were for 1-1. Sure, that's true. They're still ahead. And Cure is on 2 bases. It's going to be a long time before he can retake that 3rd.
Yeah, and when I talk about position, I don't just mean position in the game. I'm talking about the physical position of these tanks. They lock. It is a hard lock into the natural expansion right now. And Cure, he does have air control. He's going to build these Liberators. But during all of this, he is getting outmined severely right now. We see 3 arrows for the minerals, 2 arrows for the gas. It's a huge income advantage at the moment here for Oliveira. And by the time Cure can actually start to move out here, Scan does see the Liberators as well, which is really nice for Oliveira. By the time he actually moves out and is able to secure this, cheeky little Marine drop on the left side is actually going to win the fight against a lot of Marines. This is a very nice trade. He just killed like 10, 15 Marines basically for free. Meanwhile, pulls back his own tanks, going to knock out the sensor tower. This is starting to get close to almost checkmate territory. Oh, but as I say that, you got to save those tanks, Oliveira. Okay, you will pull them back. Yeah, it's so weird to say that, but like the lead is starting to get very wide, and we've got Ravens coming on down. That being said, you do not want to lose 3 tanks for free, and he will lose 3 tanks for free.
Yeah, that was actually really good Liberator positioning, sieging up where the tanks were re-sieging. So even if Oliveira had gone and unsieged, he would have lost a couple tanks regardless. Which again, not exactly what you want. Oh, yeah, that's a big drop coming. What's that? 6 medevacs, 7 medevacs on the left side. And one of the benefits from this map control that Oliveira has been finding, Steadfast, the sensor towers were killed. Cure, the only way he sees this happening is if a spotter, well, the spotter Cyclone finds it, and it looks like there's actually, is it gonna see it? No, it doesn't.
He saw 1 medevac for a quarter of a second. Did he see it? The answer, might surprise you. That was a clickbait title, sorry about that. Time gives him the benefit of the doubt. Pardon me, Oliveira gives him the benefit of the doubt and says, you probably saw this. That Cyclone bluffed Cure away from losing this game right now. Because if those Marines get unloaded into the medevacs, they kill the command center, they probably kill all the production. It is probably game right then and there. Talking about checkmate positions, that's about as strong of a checkmate as you can get. Still, I am liking Oliveira's position, but Cure is starting to push himself onto the map. And there's not a lot of Marines here. So many of them are with the aggressive army, and air control is solidly in the favor of Cure. Oliveira, he went for this Raven transition. Could this end up being his undoing?
Well, that's a massive counterattack on the other side. Gets on top of a couple tanks early, and now stims into the naturals. Going to try to get the command center down. It's dead. So yes, that's a great position. You're right. Cure on the other side of the map does have a bit of a chokehold on where Oliveira can be. Cure's on 2 bases. Much like that last game we cast, Oliveira, all he needs is some time. His 3-3 is on the way. Yes, he doesn't have air control, but, you know, a lot of Marines, a lot of tanks, some good positioning can make up for that one. These Liberators are such a problem, though. Marines, they're going to stim in, and with the tank coverage, they're just going to go down. Oliveira needs to give this position up.
Yeah, Oliveira is being slowly pushed back. The big deal right now, well, there's actually a lot of big deals. A potential flank. Oh, as I say that, we are going to see the collapse coming on in. Marines are so late in the back. Oh my God, they are so out of position here. But the air superiority almost going in the favor of Oliveira. That Viking, if it had killed the Viking of Cure, he would have gained air superiority, but we do have a couple Vikings popping out. It is still a significant army supply lead here for Cure. However, the Liberator goes down, and that is going to slow the momentum. These tanks on the left side. 2 of them going to get taken out. Oh man, that is expensive. He's got 2 more behind us, and he might draw his opponent in, but 3-3 and +2 vehicle weapons just completed. Meanwhile, attack coming through the middle. Is there enough Marines for Cure to hold with the siege tanks in the back? I think. Oh, it's going to be so close, but the concave is good for Cure. He's getting it on top of the tanks, but they have really whittled down this army, and that is amazing news for Oliveira, because now his 3-3 upgrades are going to be much more impactful. And there's almost no Marines on the field for Cure. He's on 12 Marines right now.
Steadfast.
Yeah, this is, I think Oliveira's done it here.
Steadfast +2 mech attack finished right as that attack happened. Tanks were one-shotting the Stim Marines instead of 2 and made that fight so much harder. And there's the surround, there's the break. Everything is gonna go down. Cure falls. Oliveira takes his recent history and turns it into fact. He's up 1.
That was such a cool TVT for so many reasons. One, we had such a great understanding there from Oliveira to get himself in such a great position. Really well done. That one drop into the main base was this close. This close to just straight up ending the game. He gave himself some really good position in that game. But Cure, from a position of being down 25 SCVs, 2 bases to 4, he put together a push with that Liberator setup, with that air control, that was honestly inches away from winning that game. If he hits before that 3-3 and that +2 vehicle weapons, it's a good chance he might just win the game outright, because if even 15 Marines survive instead of the 2 that did with the army, I honestly think that Cure is able to, because he still had 5 tanks in the back, I think he's able to lock down the ramp and then maybe even gets it on top of the production. We're a hair away from making that happen. So really impressive showing. That's one of those wins as Oliveira where you're almost feeling worse about it, because you're like, if you really identify the game state, you're like, oh man, he was so close to winning when I was in an amazing position. I have got to give him a little bit more respect, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy though. We talk about upgrades, right? All the time in this matchup. Wow, 1-1 versus 0-0 Marine upgrades. It is not often that we see one upgrade matter so much as that +1 mech attack versus +2. You're right. You get 15 more Marines there. That fight goes very differently, but you're one-shotting Marines. And that tank line was so deep that even as Cure fought through the Marines, again, 3-3 versus 2-2. It took a while to get through that. But even as he fought through the lines and started getting on top of the tanks, you had 1-2 tanks in the back line. And because they could target kind of different areas of the Marine count, it all went down, right? So massive, tiny little things turn into massive advantages. And yeah, I'm here for it. TVT has been such a boring matchup. For the last year or so, Sensor Towers, Turtle, whatever. Not at this tournament. We've had some of the greatest TVTs we had in a long time. Spirit Cure, Mar Beyond, this game 1.
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, I was saying it during the break, and you disagreed, and it's a fair point, but I actually think the Raven rework is the best change in the entire patch. It is already reinvigorated TVT in such an amazing way. Marine tank versus Marine tank, that battle for air control, the Liberators, the Vikings, it's so much fun. And the Sensor Tower nerf, that's a low-key MVP upgrade too, or MVP rework. It has just opened up the matchup so much. And let's be real, we love watching players just go toe-to-toe and smash into one another. It's fun. And I didn't mention it, I'll mention it a little bit, but there was something else that, we kind of saw a little bit of in that game that I think played a factor. But for now, let's get into the game and let's talk about that.
Folks in the upper left in the blue for Dragon Phoenix Gaming, down a map, but he's shown us this weekend going down doesn't affect him at all. It's Cure.
And his opponent, spawning down in the bottom right for Kites of Gaming. It is the Red Terran player, Oliveira. Now, yeah, like I said, I wanted to mention a couple things that are very intriguing about the patch as well. And part of what maybe left Oliveira a little bit more vulnerable than he needed to be is the fact that he went for those Ravens. So if instead of the two-star port tech lab, he gets reactors and pumps out a couple extra Vikings earlier, he retakes control of the air so much faster. He doesn't even need the add-ons. He can literally just go 2 naked starports, 4 Vikings at a time. and he can take air control, and he never gets pushed back into his natural. That game never gets, even though, you know, it looked comfortable for a lot of it for Oliveira, it really did start getting uncomfortable, especially towards the very end. I think he can avoid that whole thing by just going into more Vikings and reclaiming the air superiority a lot faster.
It's funny you say that, Steadfast, because again, we talked about incredible TVTs this weekend. Spirit Cure, those games 4 and 5 were ridiculous. And one thing that Spirit said after he eventually qualified through the lower bracket, and he was asked about those games, he's like, yeah, I made a mistake. I went Ravens in the late game. That's an old patch idea. It's just not worth doing anymore because you open yourself up so much, and it's crazy. When I think of Raven late game power, I think of making tanks not really all that great. But between the nerf to anti-armor missile, it's only -2 armor instead of -3, so it doesn't really make Marines explode quite as much. And the fact that your auto turrets are effectively useless in these late game scenarios, that is so much power that is gone. So you're right, yeah. Go Raven or go Viking, go Liberator. Take advantage of the enhanced micro-ability of the Vikings. It's a much more dynamic matchup, and I think we're gonna start to see Ravens less and less.
Yes. I will say, I think I would like to see a late game Raven or two. I think it's good because the build time, it was actually buffed. The build time was buffed. The cost was buffed. I'm cool with, you know, because at the end of the day, a lot of the time you're seeing players going up into like 5 starports. Even if you go 3 or 4 starports and just have one with a tech lab on it, and it's just building a Raven or even 2 Ravens just to have with the army, because the anti-armor missile alone is still, it's a valuable spell. It's just not worth it now to have 10 Ravens, 15 Ravens. Like and that's good. It's a support unit. It's meant to support the army, not be the army, if you're not Ketrock. But that's like that's how the game should be played. So I'm really happy. And a lot of people have given a lot of flack to the players. They've said, oh man, what are they don't know anything about the patch. Those people are idiots, because the players, they know. And while some things may need to be tweaked, we're going to find out a lot about that at Katowice. The Raven rework, what it's done for TVT, has already showed the brilliance of this patch.
And, you know, the other thing we need to talk about before we start talking about this game is the fact that Core of the Reactor was nerfed, which I don't think we've mentioned at all, or was removed, excuse me. So Ravens, yeah, not only are they worse in terms of auto turrets and anti-armor missile, it takes a lot longer for them to get that energy. So even getting them out, they're not as immediately useful as they previously were. So again, yeah, only a couple. But Steadfast, in this game, look at what we got coming in from here. That is a very quick stim.
Yep. This is you talk about prep, you talk about doing weird stuff, and you talk about coming in with 1 or 2 builds that are just really fire, really knockout, really strong. This is a way to approach the game for sure. And I think with the Raven nerf, where it just doesn't have as much power, builds like this become an option again. You now no longer need to just spam out auto turrets to win any early game engagement. So something like a 2-1-1 play becomes a lot more viable potentially. So the fact that, first of all, I don't know. I say potentially because I genuinely don't know. This is like the first time I'm seeing it, and I cover a lot of damn StarCraft 2. By the way, scan, this looks super normal. Maybe you're like, wow, he's gone quickly into this. Actually, no, seeing that second reactor, that might raise some alarm bells. Yeah, you wouldn't expect to see a second reactor, and you wouldn't expect to see the barracks still building Marines. So this might actually be a bit of a tell, but he didn't see the second barracks. He didn't see the stim being researched. Is that enough information for Oliveira to figure out what's going on? That's my big question now, because he's going to need to batten down the hatches. And it looks like with how he's set up in the main base, it looks like he does have a good idea.
Yeah, he's building a Liberator super early, and that might just be for harassment play, but Liberator and Viking coming out of the reactored starport. So he is building more defensive tools to make sure that he can handle this in some way. A couple additional barracks on the way as well. And I love what Cure's doing, right? He's going for this pressure. It's 2-1-1. He's actually got +1 halfway done. But the big deal, he's taking his starbase on location, making up for the economic disadvantage that he might find. But somehow, despite this being a game where Cure's the one that's supposed to be aggressive on the map with those 16 Marines and 2 medevacs stim complete, the Ravens actually get out on the map. And I think this is a great play. The Ravens are not going to be all that incredible defensively. We talked about it. Auto turrets, not great. Maybe the anti-armor missiles, but auto turrets don't do much. You have your tanks and Marines at home, put those Ravens on the map, find damage on the other side.
Yeah, even the interference matrix could be handy for those medevacs to prevent them from lifting up the Marines, but that only works if Cure commits in. Now, I think I was asking if Oliveira had a good read. I think he got the perfect read because he has stayed on 2 bases for quite some time. He is going to get a bunch of damage with these auto turrets. We talked about the nerf. It's only to their survivability, their durability. It is not to their DPS. Their DPS is still so good. So the fact that Oliveira stays on 2 bases and counterattacks with those Ravens is such a great decision, in my opinion. Now, Cure, I like that he does not just try and bum rush and force damage, because if he were to do so, he'd be running into a lot of siege tanks with stimmed Marines that don't have combat shields, and that's a bad time. You don't want to be doing that. Now, what else you don't want to be doing is fighting an auto turret with SCVs. It does get cleaned up quicker than usual, but it's still 8 workers that go down. But I like that Oliveira was able to turn the Ravens into value. Oh, interception? No, we're good. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Steadfast, not only did he get 8 workers, right? He got 6 Marines off of that. He got a tank off of that with his Liberator. And yeah, he did trade the Liberator for it. But that was getting the Marines by itself, if you keep the Ravens alive, that's a great trade. Getting that tank, getting those extra Marines as well, that turns a good trade into a great trade. And remember, Oliveira had his 3rd base so much faster, so even now that, yes, Cure is on location, he does have his orbital done, it's not that bad for him. He's going to be able to take his 3rd base pretty much as soon as he gets the scout that Cure's backing up a second. And all this pressure that Cure wants to put on, there are 4 missile turrets in the main. You don't drop this. You got to go head on, and that is exactly the type of game that Oliveira wants to play.
Yes, exactly. He's got the siege tanks. He is at a period of vulnerability right now where it's +1 weapons and combat shield. So the Marines of Cure are much better. But if there's tanks covering against him, that could be really scary. Now, we do see a single missile turret in the natural. Oh, but he's not going to drop. He scans the front, sees where the army is, and he's like, okay, you're not in position. What he didn't realize was there was an opportunity here. He is going to stim, or well, boost in on top of this. Siege tank is well positioned. The Vikings going to try and deal with this. There's that interference matrix I was talking about. And auto turret will still buy some time. Huge tank shot on those Marines. This is a great defense here from Oliveira, but Cure sneaks into the natural, and he is going to find a bit of an opening. Still, I think this is a pretty good defense so far. This is still good from Cure, but I am impressed with the defense overall from Oliveira. This was a very scary moment, and he didn't crumble. Not even close.
Steadfast, look at the upgrades here. What 1-1 just was completed. So now, if there's a timing that Oliveira can try to break out of this, especially with the tanks on siege, yeah, we're going to see him move on top of this right now. Can he chase him in time? 2 tanks go down to the medevac. No, Cure. That's not what you want. And yes, economically, it's a problem. Oliveira down 20 workers at this point, but he's up 20 army supply. He's up an upgrade. He has these Ravens still. He has utter air dominance, 7 Vikings to 2. We can see some Liberators get added in once he realizes that. And this is a terrifying push timing coming in from the Chinese player.
It is an extremely scary push timing. Now, Cure is set up to go for a base trade, which is his best case scenario, I think, in this. Oh, that Raven is so low on HP. Oliveira's got to keep it alive. But it's the Viking lead as well. And actually, Oliveira, he recognizes his opponent's army is not here. He is going to sprint right up into the natural. I wouldn't mind him bypassing, going straight into the main. The snipes on the Ravens, though, are going to allow the tanks to survive. The counterattack on the other side. Let's see what's happening there. We do have 2 tanks in the main base for Oliveira, and he is going to hold the line for now. He even snipes down one of his opponent's tanks. This is getting wild here. Oh, the stim up the ramp. He sieges a tank, though, and blocks his own Marines, but he also blocks his opponent's units, landing on his opponent's tank. Very nice from Oliveira. The command center may fall, but even if it does, Oliveira is going to camp his opponent's production, and I don't think Cure can return the favor.
Steadfast, big deal here with 1 command center lifted. There's not a lot of scans on the map. Dropping on top of the tank here. He's going to try to find something. Other tank on the left side, and it seems like Cure's actually going to be able to find his way onto the high ground. We're talking about who can camp each other's production, but in this case, Oliveira and Cure have camped each other. But there is only 2 orbitals on either side. I think one is lifted still for Cure. Scans are not readily available. Finding high ground positions, attacking into each other is pretty damn hard, but there we go. That's a big deal. +2 looks like it may just complete here. Oliveira is not going to be focusing on it, and a 1 upgrade lead when we talk about a scrappy situation like this, that's a massive deal.
It is a huge deal, and if it does complete, that could be everything. The Marines, they don't recognize it is going to complete. That could shift the game entirely. Another great move from Cure is that he snuck an entire medevac of Marines out of his main base under the nose of his opponent's Vikings. Now, this is where the game gets so weird. It is a full-on base trade. Command center that was built, that snuck its way up, does get taken out. In terms of command centers, we do have one extra right now for Oliveira, so he's going to have more scans. He's going to be able... Actually, no, we've got two extra. He's got this regular command center that he saved. If he can drag this game on even a little bit, this is a huge advantage for Oliveira. Absolutely. Still, the +2 weapons is a big deal as well.
Yeah, Steadfast, the other big deal. Oliveira, A, has a bank, and B, he has production. Cure has built a couple more barracks. Yeah, 1,500 minerals is a lot of Marines. Cure, he had to build up a couple more barracks. He lost them all. He's got like one left, but he doesn't have any money. He has, you know, the command center on the north side. That gets scanned out by Oliveira, by the way. Oliveira knows exactly where everything is.
Wait, no. These are so important. You want these. No, these aren't scouting. No, you need these. No.
That's a bit of an issue. Losing the factory, you need tanks, especially when you have as much gas as Oliveira has in the bank, especially when you're down a Marine upgrade like Oliveira is. But again, as much as I would, yes, the factory needs to be remade. Does it really matter when it's 3 orbitals to 1? The supply for Oliveira here, you give us a minute. He already has more SCVs just from the base trade. Yeah. You give it a little bit of time, it's not going to really matter. So Oliveira, though, he's going to put pressure on the map. He does not want Cure to have any shot at stabilizing. And with his air superiority, how do you position yourself as Cure? You got to look for some surround. Oliveira's always going to know what's happened between the extra scans that he's got and the Vikings that are right there. And he turns it into Liberators as well. These tanks are not going to last all that long.
No, they are not. They are going to be pushed back inevitably. And this Liberator is almost certainly a checkmate Liberator. It is a brilliant decision. I was going to bring it up if he didn't start it already. By the way, we do finally see Cure coming in here. He will. Oh, look at this. He just sets the depots ablaze. And he realizes, I need to get back here right now. But I think... Oh, Oliveira recognizes the tanks are unsieged. He's going to land the Vikings, and he is going to move forward. He's going to take down the last orbital command. This is it for Cure. He's got nothing left in this game. He's building Marines, but this is the last Marines we're going to see. And Oliveira, he recognizes it. He recognizes he's pulling back. He just needs to defend, and all he really needs to do is siege up. He's going to do so. The upgrade lead for Cure is not going to be enough. His base is revealed. Oliveira is going to complete the 2-0. GG gets called.